Neighbor was a confusing, awful, frustrating, and really buggy mess of a game. And I'm here to tell you why. Hello Neighbor is an indie horror game that was released in 2016 by Dynamic Pixels and Tinybuild. The basic premise of Hello Neighbor is simple. You move into a new house, and across the street, your neighbor seems to be doing some suspicious activities inside of his basement. So you break into his house and find a bunch of keys, crowbars, and clues, stuff like that all around the house to try to break into his basement. All while the neighbor himself is chasing you around the house trying to get you to leave. So what happens when you finally get into the basement? Well, you find all the stuff to get inside, and you open it, you go inside, and there's nothing. So people, still curious about what was in the basement, and curious about the mystery of this game, they obviously wanted more. But this was just the pre-alpha, so there's much more to go. Alpha 1, in my opinion, and many other people's opinion, is the best version of the game. The house is bigger, so it means there's more problems to solve, and more ways to get into the basement. The neighbor's AI seems to have gotten better, and overall, a lot of things that were wrong with the pre-alpha were improved in Alpha 1. The sound design was better, there was actual cutscenes now, and it was very fun to play. So what happens when you get into the basement of this version? Well, you open the basement door, and the neighbor himself shuts the door and just tosses you in a grave. That's right, we still don't know what's in the basement. So in comes Alpha 2. Alpha 2 is where things really start to go downhill with the game. There are many more bugs and glitches now, like certain items when spawned into the game, the neighbor's AI is all out of whack, he gets stuck in doors, he gets stuck in windows, he gets stuck just in the middle of nowhere. And also in this game, the neighbor has a self-learning AI, which means he uses tactics to try to get you out of his house more. But in this version of the game, it's very aggressive and very annoying. It gets to the point where he set up so many cameras and bear traps and things like that where you can't even get in the house. And also, with this update came a new style to the game, which in my opinion is really ugly. It's too cartoony and too colorful and just not scary at all. But other than all those problems, this alpha was alright. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't really good either. But then, there was Alpha 3. Oh boy, what do I even say about Alpha 3? Things were still buggy, things were still glitchy, the neighbor still got stuck, but there was a lot more reasons why. First of all, the house is now massive. It's like huge. And you might be thinking, oh, that's great. There's more puzzles to solve and more things to do in the house. Which is kind of right. But since the house is so big, the neighbor has a hard time getting to parts of the house. So he can only really roam around the first and second floor, which kind of defeats the whole purpose of the game. The biggest factor of Hello Neighbor is, well, the neighbor. Also, another problem with this alpha is that it's super dark. And I don't mean like stabby, blood and gore kind of dark. I mean like literally, it's very dark. I can't see anything. And the game started leaning heavily into the platforming portion of the game. And with how buggy and janky and just awful the game was, the platforming didn't really work.
I can't jump off the box because of the stupid-ass physics in this game. Every time that I jump, I propel the box down rather than myself up. So, you see, instead it makes me jump even— oh, okay, that's just great. I need to find a flashlight.
And yeah, this alpha is just disgusting, it's awful, it's gross. Blech. Alpha 4 is by far the worst. It has all the problems of Alpha 3, except more problems now? Some textures of like floors and like walls didn't even load in. And I also added a thing into this game called nightmare sequences. There were certain mini games you could find around the house that would help you when you get into the basement. They weren't exactly buggy per se, they were just annoying to get through. And once you get into the basement, you use the abilities that you got from the minigames to navigate through the basement. So yeah, Alpha 4, awful, disgusting. But after this comes the final release of the game. So, how did that go? So the final release of the game is split into 4 parts, and each part kind of utilizes a portion of the alphas. Different houses, different mechanics, different stuff like that. But it's still buggy. The neighbor's AI is still all out of whack, there's more platforming that doesn't make sense, and it's just so infuriating. And overall, the game is just really disappointing. And might I also add that this game costed $30? For this buggy, incomplete, just awful mess of a game? It's so disappointing. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh yeah, there was also the... That's right, Hello Neighbor and Bindi did a crossover. But for the sake of this video, I'm only gonna talk about what Hello Neighbor did for the crossover. So basically, they did nothing. All they did was make the Hello Neighbor game look like pee. Ew. And then just strapped a Bindi mask to the neighbor's face. That's pretty much it. Yeah, this crossover was hardly a crossover at all. It was just lazy and honestly, in my opinion, the most disappointing of the entire Hello Neighbor thing. With all that said, that is the end of Hello Neighbor. Or at least the first game. What are they doing now? They made a spin-off, another spin-off, another spin-off. They're working on a second Hello Neighbor game. They made a TV pilot, and, am I forgetting something? Oh, right. That. Look, Hello Neighbor 2, it looks good, okay? It has promise. It looks a lot better than the buggy alphas and the full release of the first Hello Neighbor. So, I don't want to get my hopes up too high, but I want to say, I'm really hoping that Hello Neighbor 2 is gonna do good. So, yeah, that's basically what happened to Hello Neighbor. This is the end of the video now. Goodbye.